Alabama's Caden Proctor is the perfect, toolsy, and physically imposing offensive lineman the Eagles need.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian Parson, NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. It's all because of you. As I promised, my third installment closing out our mock draft over at Bleacher Report, our post-Super Bowl mock draft, going through picks from 22 to 32. We're going to break it all down. Offensive lineman fits, everything to close out this pod. Close out this mock draft, rather. Let's get into it. At pick 22, the Los Angeles Chargers select interior offensive lineman from Penn State, Vega Ione. At pick 23, the Philadelphia Eagles select interior offensive lineman. That's what we're projecting in this mock draft. Caden Proctor out of Alabama. And at pick 24, the Cleveland Browns, via the trade for, I think, Travis Hunter, that first round pick from Jacksonville, they select offensive tackle Caleb Lomu out of Utah. So let's go up to number 23. Let's talk this through. You lose Jeff Stoutland, right? So no more Stoutland University for the Philadelphia Eagles, which sucks because he's the best offensive line coach in all of the NFL. So losing that developmental coach, that guy that can take a lot of toolsy prospects who aren't refined and just need some help and need some time, he can get those guys up to speed with more quickness and speed in the development than most coaches are able to do. Just one of the best, and to me, he should be a Hall of Fame coach in my opinion. That's just me talking. All right. So you lose him. Landon Dickerson is lending. He's coming out, another Alabama offensive lineman. He's been battling injuries his whole career, right? I believe he came out. Was he hurt when he came out of? He might have been hurt when he came. He might have had an injury when he came out of Alabama and he went into the draft. So injuries have been a thing for him, and the word is that he's considering retirement, right? Mackay Becton ended up taking that reclamation year last year in 2024 with the Eagles. And he went and got a bag for the Chargers. That didn't pan out. Tyler Steen, that interior offensive line needs help. And Caden Proctor, being a 20-year-old, just physically imposing, toolsy offensive line prospect, you look at Caden Proctor and you say to yourself, man, what can this young man turn into? He's good in the run game. He's got enough athleticism with his frame as well. So I feel good about when I look at a guy like Caden Proctor and I say, I can, again, they've kind of done this before, right? He's 6'7", 365, 360, what he's listed as. I remember during the beginning of the season, he said that he dropped some weight. He dropped down to maybe 340, I think it was, or 330. So we got to see what is the comfortable, I would say, the comfortable playing weight for him, where he keeps his optimal strength, but he's also has optimal quickness and athleticism. So I think putting him on the interior offensive line reduces the range that he has to cover, right? It's more lateral movement, more keeping, being a bumper as well, moving guys in the run game. The Eagles want to get back to being physical. And this is a physical player. This is a guy that plays with good physicality, plays with good strength at the POA. I like what I've seen from Caden Proctor since he got on campus at Alabama, right? So at the end of the day, this could be he's the perfect fit for them. Now I would have loved this even more if Jeff Stoutland was there too, because he's going to really be able to hone in on some of the technical aspects of the game for a guy like Caden Proctor, who's a little raw or inconsistent with his technique and his hands and creating short corners and things of that nature. Being able to emphasize that with better coaching can nullify some of those negatives and flaws in his game that you were worried about. But man, I think this would be a really good fit for the Eagles. Again, they want to get back to running the football, being physical. Jalen Hurts on QB powers and QB sneaks You know what I mean? Getting Saquon Barkley back to the 2024 version of him, even though it'll be 2 years older, 2 years removed. No, that 2026 starts, he'll be 2 years removed from that dominant season. So, yeah, I think that's a move that I think the Eagles absolutely should make. Yes, they could go wide receiver. There's talks about a potential trade coming with A.J. Brown. We'll see how it pans out. At pick 22, Vega Ione, Penn State interior offensive lineman, going to the Chargers. Again, I just mentioned it when I broke down in my synopsis when it came down to the Eagles. That Mekhi Becton situation had not panned out. And one thing about Jim Harbaugh, he does not play about the offensive line. I need to protect my quarterback, but he wants to run the football. And he have a very talented running back that's coming off his rookie season, battled the injury and everything. But when healthy, Omarion Hampton is going to be able to take this offense, let them be able to lean on him with some 20 to 25 carry games if they're smart, and to really take that pressure off of Justin Herbert. But nonetheless, you got to also protect Justin Herbert. And I think with Vega Ione, you get that. You get a guy that can pass protect, a guy that's also going to bring bring physicality, bring a punch, and an attitude to this offensive line. And that's stability and then the strength. They need that, man. And I think adding a guy like Vega Ione, like, truthfully, I think he might be the best, like, true guard prospect in this class, and I think he has a chance to go round one anyway. So I look at the Chargers and what Jim Harbaugh is and who he is to his core, it just makes perfect sense. Let's close this thing out talking about the Cleveland Browns, selecting Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle, left tackle out of Utah. They have to figure out, they need this. They need to fix that left tackle spot. Number one, they gotta fix the offensive line in that left tackle spot. Get somebody there for the foreseeable future, 4, 5, 7, 8 years. Like, you don't want to be a team, like, how teams lose court. For example, the Pittsburgh Steelers, up until Aaron Rodgers, had not had a competent quarterback since Big Ben, right? We've seen so many teams, the Jets struggled. They haven't had a good quarterback, really good quarterback, since Joe Namath? Like, what in the world is going on, right? So you don't want to be a team like that, or be in that situation. If you're the Browns, would say the Browns haven't had a good left tackle since Joe Thomas. Like, you don't want that. So I think getting Caleb Lomu, he's not from a skill set and just a refinement standpoint, he's still got some room to grow, but the athleticism is there, the framework is there, body type is there, everything else is there. And I think adding him to this offensive line gives you that blindside protector for the future. And if you're going to roll with, listen, I like Shedeur Sanders. I had a first round grade on Shedeur Sanders. The NFL, for many different reasons, say what you want, many different reasons, he fell to the 5th round, right? Because I swear, I promise you, I watched the tape. Dylan Gabriel wasn't better than him in college or from an NFL standpoint. Like, he just wasn't. You know what I mean? So if you're going to roll with Shedeur, you need to protect him. Shedeur is not the athletic freak that should be running around in the backfield, creating plays with his legs. Shedeur needs to be back foot hit, survey the field, ball out. He needs to be playing as a pocket passer with that functional enough mobility to where if pressure gets there, he can slide, he can move, and he can make confident maneuvers in the pocket to elude and evade pass rushers, whether it's edge pressure or interior. But you want to, if you can lock up on the edges with your tackles, now your guard and center guard trio can help one another, be bumpers, double team, all of that stuff, right? And allow him to be able to sit in a smooth, just calm pocket. Something he had, truthfully, let's be honest about Shedeur. He hasn't had a calm pocket since what? Was it Jackson State? Because I promise you, go watch Jackson State. You didn't see a guy drifting and drifting and drifting. You didn't see a lot of that. That bad habit grew. And it grew at Colorado behind those piss poor offensive lines. So I think, getting a guy like Caleb Lomu makes a lot of sense. Again, that's their second first round pick. Pick 6, they got Caleb Downs. So you get Caleb Downs and then you get Caleb Lomu. I think that is a really, really good first round for the Cleveland Browns. But coming up next, guys, we're going to break down picks 25 through 28 of our post Super Bowl mock draft over at Bleacher Report. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs, put your post at the top of the page, and it helps you reach the right candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Breaking down picks 25 through 28 of our post-Super Bowl mock draft over at Bleacher Report. That's what we're getting into next. Thanks for being an everydayer with us. If you want the show ad-free, check out the Everydayer Club and go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to become a member. Picks 25 through 28. Let's start pick 25. The Chicago Bears select Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety out of Toledo. At pick 26, the Buffalo Bills select Malachi Fields, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. At pick 27, the San Francisco 49ers select wide receiver Denzel Boston out of Washington. And at pick 28, the Houston Texans select defensive lineman Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. Man, you talk about a stretch of 4 or 5 picks that were just great. Let's start at the top, man. Getting Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, EMW, safety out of Toledo. Guys, I'm telling you right now, this is a toolsy, physical player, and there's a chance that heading into this offseason, because neither are under contract, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard III, both safeties for the Bears, could be walking into free agency. And if that is the case, if you're the Bears, you probably try to bring back at least one, right? It's probably be cheaper to get Kevin Byard because he's an older player rather than trying to get the in-prime young Jaquan Brisker who's looking to come off that rookie contract. He's looking to cash in as he should, and not going to deny the fact he should. So I would try to bring back a Kevin Byard and then pair him with EMW, Emmanuel Warren McNeil, the guy that plays everywhere, that does different things, wears multiple hats for your defensive secondary, and he has that build and frame when you look at him to say, you know what, he could play in the box, he could play split safeties, he can do just the different things you're looking for in the NFL. And at the end of the day, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. I don't know what he's going to test just yet. I don't know if he's that freak athlete, but he's got great length in terms of the wingspan. He's physical. I think he's going to fit. I always talk about not just fitting a scheme and a role, fitting a culture, fitting a city. And Chicago is a tough, gritty, blue-collar city. And I think he will fit that so well and everything. And if he does test well, because, again, what Nick Eamon-Warry has done for the Seattle Seahawks, being that big nickel, that big safety that can play in the box, play man-to-man coverage. He's an outstanding athlete. Teams are going to chase that archetype, right? Teams are going to chase him and chase Kyle Hamilton. That's just what it is. So Emmanuel McNeil-Warren to the Bears, I love that fit a whole lot. Another fit I like, and I think this could be what we hoped Keon Coleman would be, and that's Malachi Fields, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. When the owner comes out and says, yeah, the head coach wanted him, the coaching staff, they wanted Keon Coleman, but the GM he had trepidation about it. Number one, that's a lie. We caught you in the lie because we have the video footage. How did you get caught in 4K? They have you in 4K. But if you know, you know. So shout out to RDC. But they caught you in 4K, Brandon B. Like, how do you guys just sit up there and lie to us? We got you on camera at the combine, talking to so well. I'm glad he ran that so we could draft him. But nonetheless, getting a Malachi Fields will give you the ball winner you thought you were going to get with Keon Coleman. Malachi Fields, 6'4", 222 pounds. This is a guy that absolutely wins on the outside. He can play in the slot. In that short to intermediate route running is there. Quick snaps and swivels of the hip in terms of being able to get to a spot, run those little hitch routes, those OTB routes, spot concept, and different things of that nature where, hey, he's the underneath option. We get the ball to him and let 6'4", 220 go be 6'4", 220. But then also he has elite ball skills. And I'm going to say this, there's maybe only one or two receivers that really rival him in terms of like actual ball skills. Like I love Makai Lemon, love Jordan Tyson, love Cornell Tate. I think the only guy that really can you say might rival him is Denzel Boston. This guy has some of the best catches, unreal grabs against Pittsburgh, ball way out in front. He reaches out with the left hand, right? Diving with the left hand, snatches it with the defender underneath, right there in his hip pocket. Just ridiculous catch radius, ridiculous leaping ability, all of that. Like the catch, Taylor Green throws that bomb at the Senior Bowl, leads him upfield on the post route that he split the double coverage, and then he just makes a diving grab, right? Malachi Fields, I think this is the guy where, and you could tell he works, man. You could tell he works. The stuff with Keon Coleman has been a work ethic thing from what everyone's talked about. And if it doesn't pan out, maybe you say, we drafted Malachi Fields and we trade off Keon Coleman, get a third-round pick for him for a team that needs that big X. But, think about the Saints and having Tyler Shuck. Hey, they could use a guy like Keon Coleman. So maybe they send you a third-round pick and say, hey, take it. We'll take this young man, add him to our team. Or the Tennessee Titans getting him to pair with Vega Ione and Shamir DK and whatever, right? Like you want to you could try and find a trade partner if you want to do that. And I think, hey, the Jets needing wide receiver help. There are multiple teams that I would expect would send a third at worst for a guy like Keon Coleman. That would just open up for the 22-year-old wide receiver Malachi Fields to take that X spot. And I think he could be dominant at it. I think this is a guy that Josh Allen would watch his work ethic, watch how he plays, and say, listen, I trust throwing that back shoulder fade to him. I trust throwing that goal ball to him because I know he's never truly covered. Let's talk about it, man. Denzel Boston, mentioned him. The San Francisco 49ers losing Brandon Aiyuk. George Kittle's not going to be ready by the start of the season. Torn Achilles in the playoff game? In the playoffs in January? No, we're not going to see him for quite some time, I expect. And he's not the youngest guy either. He's not like 23 years old. He's been in the league for a while now, man. I hate that for George Kittle. One of my favorite tight ends, man. I love the guy. He's a wrestling fan like myself too. So, love George Kittle. But you lose Brandon Aiyuk. You don't have George Kittle. Denzel Boston is a different body type than they typically would have at that outside receiver position, to be completely honest. Different body type, but one I think that Kyle Shanahan, with his skill set in Denzel Boston, 6'4", 210, this is a guy that runs with strength, runs with physicality after the catch, but he's got enough elusiveness or wiggle to elude guys and make guys miss and everything. But it's the ball skills. It's the back shoulder fades. It's the jump ball, the ability to run those in and out breakers. That's why I think that he would be a great fit for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan's offense, working and replacing some, if you lose Juwan Jennings, right? He can replace those in breaker routes where for a fact, as a big body guy too, similar to Juwan Jennings, that trust will be there for Brock Purdy to throw early, throw it to a spot, and trust that Denzel Boston will be able to go and get the ball in the middle of the field. But then it also opened up the confidence to throw against man-to-man coverage. Brock Purdy's he's never been a great or consistent quarterback throwing against tight man-to-man coverage, right? Lack of arm talent and everything else. And you can't anticipate throws. You got to throw against man-to-man and guys in the hip pocket. Go back to that Super Bowl against the Chiefs. The only guy that was open consistently was Brandon Aiyuk, and they didn't get the ball. And honestly, I think that's where the downfall and just the trend of that connection between receiver and franchise really started to, deteriorate, right? And it became a detriment because of that situation. So I think Denzel Boston will then open up the trust to throw that back shoulder fade, to say, you know what, Brock Purdy looks, 40 yards on the field. I'm throwing this out there. I trust that my guy is going to be able to go out there get the ball and make the play. Because why? That's the type of player that Denzel Boston is. And let's close the thing on pick 28. The pick I love a lot. You have Will Anderson. You have Danielle Hunter. And you add another Hunter because they want to hunt quarterbacks and hunt the football. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, 320-pound defensive tackle that eats up space but has pass rush upside. And I think for D'Amico Ryans, don't get it twisted, guys. Texas fans, the very next pick, which I'll talk about in the next segment, you're probably going to be pissed because like, why didn't we go with that pick? Because it's an offensive lineman. But getting Lee Hunter, I love it, right? I think I did lobby in this conversation about getting the tackle, but being able to put Lee Hunter really, like, again, just elevate this defensive line, elevate this defense, take some of that pressure off CJ Stroud, who has been struggling because they can't protect him. The offensive line situation in Houston is like the immune system of a newborn baby. The immune system's not strong enough to protect the child once they get in the daycare. The cesspool of germs. I know I have 2 sons. It's not a game. Daycare is a cesspool of germs. And truthfully, that is what the offensive line for the Houston Texans are. They are not strong enough to protect their baby, that CJ Stroud, protect the young quarterback from the germs, which is the defensive pressure. So I get it, but Lee Hunter would absolutely just elevate this defense and, again, take some of that pressure off. And then you try to worry about getting the offensive lineman on day 2, maybe through free agency. You got to find the best 5, and that's something that they've been struggling with over the last 2 seasons, going into his 4th year in the league. Last 2 seasons, that offensive line has been porous. But let's close this thing out with picks 29 through 32, and it looks like, and this was before the news, the Rams got themselves a new franchise tackle with one of their veterans deciding to retire. So we're going to talk about that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The winter games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed, skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off, even niche events become must-watch when you fully lock into the competition. And FanDuel keeps the Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. Closing this thing out, pick 29 through 32. At pick 29, the Los Angeles Rams select climbing, stock rising offensive tackle out of Georgia, Monroe Freeling. At pick 30, the Denver Broncos select defensive lineman Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. At pick 31, the New England Patriots select defensive lineman Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. And at pick 32, the Seattle Seahawks select safety Dylan Thinneman out of Oregon. Man, where do we start here? I started 29. I talked about it. I started 29. Monroe Freeling stock is rising, guys. 6'7", 300 pounds or so, a little over 300 pounds, 310, I think, 320. This is a long arm, athletic dude. I talked about him last Monday, I think, or earlier this Monday. I can't remember. This week or last week, one or two. But I love what this young man did. And then to get Cardinal Tate first and then get Monroe Freeling, I tweeted out they need defense. But this is a home run situation if you're the Rams, right? They do have Warren McClendon, who I like coming out of Georgia, another Bulldog, who filled in at that right tackle spot, and it was solid work from him. But if you don't feel like he's a long-term option, you want to get a more toolsy, high upside guy, that is a Monroe Freeling. And then you can use Warren McClendon, allow him to, number one, you can build up that trade stock for him, right? Don't do like the Detroit Pistons with Jaden Ivey and say, we're not going to play you a lot and then expect to get some good return for you. No, let's showcase Warren McClendon. He plays well. And then a team that needs an offensive tackle, you could trade him for a pick. And then you could put Monroe Freeling in at like midseason, whatever you want to do. Like, there's ways to do it. But Monroe Freeling, long arm, redirects well, athletic, like lateral agility and movement skills. He's just young. He's just green, man. 1 year as a starter. But this young man has everything that you want in a franchise tackle. And then again, because I think Robin Havenstein I think he either retired or getting ready to retire, or that's the rumor. So, and I think he might be the free agent anyway. But pick 30, the Denver Broncos getting Keldrick Falk. I think it was John Franklin Myers just has balled out for them and everything. And if you lose JFM, Keldrick Falk is a great substitute and young substitute for that same role, because I think he projects well if you allow him to play that kind of 3-tech 4-eye interior defensive lineman. If you're running a base front for even front, could play a strong side or just that defensive end role, but rushing the passer, let him learn how to terrorize from the interior of the offensive line, get right into the face of the quarterback, and that's what. And listen, he's young until the Keldrick Falk, and all about every day is no. Keith came on the pod. Keith was high on him from the summer. I came on the pod and was like, I don't see it. He's stiff as an edge, but as an interior defensive lineman, that tweener role, yeah, I think he'd be the perfect replacement for John Franklin Myers. The New England Patriots struggled to stop the run. And K9, Kenneth Walker III, MVP of the Super Bowl. I remember telling people coming into that draft class, people had Breece Hall, who I liked Breece. I think a third round grade on Breece. He went top of the second. I had a top of the second round grade on Kenneth Walker III, and everything we saw, the elusiveness, the speed, the lateral agility, the strength and run power, the patience. Like, he's just more natural runner and everything. And just, yeah, like he's a stud, and he won Super Bowl MVP. Well, Caden McDonald can come in and help with a lot of that, right? Help that run defense, help eat up space on the interior, allow Christian. You allow Caden McDonald to be that 0-tech, 1-tech in that space eater, and now you probably put Christian Barmore to that 3 to 4-eye. And man, you talking about physicality in between the guard, center, and guard trio. Like, you're going to have a hard time running the football at them. Then you're going to have a hard time running away from them because they'll be able to move. Yeah, I think I like that a whole lot and everything. And I just think that ability, coming from Vrabel's an Ohio State alum, getting a guy that can play that nose tackle spot, they'll need it because as we put into the insert, Tonga contract is about to expire. They need a nose tackle, and I really love Caden McDonald. I love Caden McDonald's game. The best run defensive tackle in this class. Let's close this thing out. The Seattle Seahawks getting Dylan Thinneman out of Oregon. We know that there's a lot of guys set to hit, a few guys set to hit free agency. Safety Kobe Bryant for the Seahawks, Tariq Woolen, and Josh Jobe, who, listen, guys, let me tell you something. Okay, before I get into Dylan Thinneman and how he fits here and why I like this pick. I was so high on Josh Jobe coming out of Alabama. I was so high. Let me tell you something. Stick to your guns, guys. Stick to your guns. Stick to the film. Let the film be the film. Because sometimes you're just early. You're not wrong. You're just early. Or the NFL is just late. But Josh Jobe played very well for those Seahawks. And if I was them, if you're going to lose Rick Woolen, I would make sure to re-sign this young man so that you can still have him in Devin Witherspoon and you can draft another corner because there's a deep corner class. Me and Keith will have a conversation because Keith does not like this DB class, the safety and corner. I actually love it now that I got deeper into the film on these guys. But Dylan Thinneman, like I said, you lose Kobe Bryant. Dylan Thinneman, you can get two versions of him, though. You can get the guy that played that strong safety, low hole, robber technique, ball skills, like just instinctive player working from depth downhill, like we saw at Oregon. Or you can get the free safety who has showcased the range and instincts and ability to bait, quarterbacks into reads and had the range on the top of the defense to move sideline to sideline and take things away like we saw at Purdue. So being able to put him into that defense and everything, I think with Mike McDonald being like, because then you ask yourself, hey, if we bring back Josh Jobe right? And everything. You get Dylan Thinneman. What is Dylan Thinneman and Nick Eamon-Wari your future safety tandem? Because if you get a really good nickel, right? Now, granted, he's not going to be Weapon X like Nick Eamon-Wari, but if you get another nickel, now you got Dylan Thinneman and Nick Eamon-Wari as your two safeties long term. Woo-wee! That's you cooking with gas, baby. All right, you cooking with gas. You take the coals and then take that other stuff somewhere else. I'm cooking with gas here, so really love that fit. Like I said, just a guy that settles a defense. He can communicate well, all those things. I really like Dylan Thinneman overall. And again, with Mike McDonald, calling plays and his just psychotic behavior as a defensive-minded coach, absolutely love it. But guys, that is the third installation, breaking down our post-Super Bowl mock draft over at Bleacher Report. We went through all of the picks, all 32. So every single team through these 3 episodes, bonus episodes that I brought to you this week, all 32 teams, your fan base should feel good because I was able to break down every single pick that we made in this mock draft. But as always, go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.